Welcome to Insights for Life, where we open our hearts to listen to God's voice through His Word. Today we're diving into the parable of the Prodigal Son from Luke chapter 15, verses 11 to 32, and there's so much depth in this narrative.
Absolutely. It's a rich story full of grace, forgiveness, and redemption.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So the narrative introduces a man with two sons. One, the younger, is rebellious and craves independence, and the other, the older, though outwardly obedient, harbors resentment and pride. It really paints a picture of the varied ways we can drift away from God's embrace.
It's interesting because while the younger son goes off and squanders his share, he eventually hits rock bottom. And that's when the transformative moment happens.
Right. The prodigal son finds himself in deep trouble, working with pigs, and even desiring their food, it's like the ultimate low point. And then, out of sheer desperation, he decides to return, saying, "Father, I have sinned."
Yeah, absolutely. And that moment of self awareness really shows the power of humility and the reality of our need for God's mercy. There's an honesty in admitting our faults that paves the way for restoration.
Exactly. And what's so striking is the father's response. Not anger, not rebuke, but an immediate, joyful restoration. He orders the best robe, a ring, sandalias, and even the celebration with a feast. It's almost like the ultimate welcome
Right.
home party.
Yes. And that to me underscores how God's love isn't transactional, it's unconditional. It doesn't depend on us working hard to earn it, but is freely given.
Right. And then there's the older son. His reaction is equally compelling. Even though he's always been by his father's side and followed all the rules, his heart is hardened by jealousy and a sense of injustice.
Exactly. His resentment really speaks to the danger of self righteousness. He represents the attitude of, doing all the right things without a genuine relationship. And that kind of pride can really block out love.
Yeah, it's like he's stuck in this mindset of, I've always been loyal, so why should I celebrate someone who strayed? It challenges us to question, are we so caught up in our own measurements of worth and fidelity that we lose sight of genuine compassion?
Right, exactly. And this brings up a critical point. What really prevents us from returning to God when we know we're in need of His mercy? Often, it's our own feelings of shame, guilt, and even fear of rejection that keep us away.
Yeah. It's like we build these barriers of pride and self-condemnation, not realizing that God's love is ready to erase that shame with open arms. And, the symbols in the parable, the new robe, the ring, those sandals, serve as visual affirmations of a restored identity.
Exactly. They mark a complete fresh start. It's not just about saying, I'm forgiven, but about being fully transformed and celebrated as a beloved child.
And here's an interesting twist. While the prodigal son's return is met with unbridled joy, the older son's reaction is almost a cautionary tale. It's, sort of a critique of self-sufficiency and the danger of holding on to personal grievances.
Yeah, I get that. I definitely see that, but I also think his reaction points to a universal human experience. Sometimes, even those who seem faithful on the outside can be struggling with inner turmoil, which can even lead to bitterness.
True, true. While I respect his honesty in feeling overlooked, I do respectfully challenge that approach. Because instead of understanding his deep-seated need for connection, he, clings to his
Right,
sense of
exactly.
entitlement.
That's the crux of it. And that's such a powerful reminder for us. We must always look inward to see if our actions are rooted in genuine love or in a sort of rigid self judgment.
Yep. And it also raises, thought-provoking questions about how we extend forgiveness to others. The Father's reaction teaches us that forgiveness is not measured by the extent of our obedience or worthiness. It's an act of profound, free love.
Yeah, and let's be real. In our everyday lives, we sometimes hold grudges or expect others to make up for our own perceived righteousness, rather than embracing that unconditional grace.
Exactly. And the parable nudges us to check that attitude. It's like a call to self-reflection. Are we so wrapped up in comparing ourselves to others that we miss the beauty of grace?
Yes, indeed. And think about it. God's celebration of the returning child is full of joy and celebration. It's not a somber, judgmental event, it's a vibrant restoration of what was once lost.
Right. And that celebration is not just for the prodigal son, but indirectly for all of us. It shows how God values our return and how he rejoices in our transformation.
Absolutely. It's almost like a call to action, to embrace our mistakes, learn from them, and then cheer for each other when we strive to come back to a place of humility and love.
Exactly. And that's what makes this parable so timeless. It isn't confined to a biblical context, it's applicable to our personal struggles and relationships today. After all, whether we relate more to the prodigal or even at times to the resentful elder, the invitation remains the same. Come back to the loving embrace.
And that's a revolutionary idea because it melts away the harsh judgments that we often place on ourselves or on others. It's almost like a reset button on forgiveness.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. It's like having the ultimate comeback story where every misstep is met not with condemnation, but with an outpouring of love and acceptance.
Yeah, right. There's also the idea that in extending forgiveness to others, we are emulating that same grace. It's a cycle of love that revives and heals.
Right, and that really challenges us to drop any pretense of moral superiority. Instead, we're called to rise above and embrace humility, recognizing that, regardless of our past, God's door is always open.
And I love that message. It's not just a personal transformation, but a communal one, where forgiveness becomes a shared experience that binds us together.
Exactly. And it's also about letting go of our own internal judgment. If we dwell too much on our own mistakes or compare ourselves to others, we can lose the essence of what it means to be restored by a compassionate heart.
True. And what's so refreshing is that the parable, in its vivid detail, invites us to celebrate every redeemed moment. It's not a quiet, meek return. It's a loud, joyful validation that life, even after our missteps, is meant to be lived in full grace.
Right. It turns our idea of punishment on its head. Instead of dwelling on errors, it focuses on the rebirth and the renewal. It's like God is saying, your mistakes are not your identity. Your return is.
Exactly. And that's a transformative perspective. It pushes us to view each other and ourselves through a lens of empathy rather than judgment.
And this reflection really extends to every aspect of our lives. How we interact with one another, how we forgive, and how we celebrate even the smallest returns to a better self.
Definitely. So for anyone listening today, remember, whether you're feeling lost or caught up in self-pride, the invitation is always there to come home. It's like a gentle reminder that our mistakes aren't the end of our story.
Absolutely. And as challenging as it can be to drop those walls of shame or pride, the parable urges us to embrace that cleansing, all-encompassing love, with no conditions attached.
Yeah, exactly. I love how this narrative not only speaks to individual redemption, but also mirrors the ideal of community transformation. When we open our hearts, we allow that same love to ripple outwards and touch others.
Exactly. It's a vision of restored relationships and genuine connection. Whether you're the prodigal or the elder at times, the message is clear. God is waiting with open arms, ready to celebrate your return.
And that's such a powerful invitation to drop the burdens of guilt and self-reproach and instead step into the joy of being truly, deeply loved.
Yes, and as we walk through our week, let's keep this conversation in our hearts. Let's be intentional about embodying that same generosity and compassion in our own lives.
I couldn't agree more. Right, because in the end, transformation starts from within. And when we spread grace, we spark change not only in ourselves, but in our entire community.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of this parable. It invites us to reflect, to forgive, and to celebrate life in its full, unabridged grace. It's a continual call for renewal, not just once, but every single day.
So if you're listening and perhaps feeling weighed down by guilt or pride, remember this. God's welcome is always open. The feast is always ready, and every return is worth celebrating.
Absolutely. Let this message be a beacon for your journey. Embrace forgiveness, let go of judgment, and, live in the light of unconditional love.
Thanks for joining in on this exploration of such rich spiritual truth. May we all walk in that deep, transformative love and continue to grow in our relationship with God. Stay blessed, and until next time, keep your hearts open.